Oh, what's up, everybody? Brent here. Hope everybody's having an amazing day. It is Friday, November 7th. I'm excited for this one. Today, I have a special guest, my good friend, Hemdog. Hemdog is somebody I've been getting to know a lot lately. He's a cool guy. He's what I really wanted to have him come on today is because besides crypto and NFTs, which he knows a lot about, he is in the real estate game. I think he told me for 15 years, right, Hemdog?
Like 8 years now.
I don't know why I said 15. About 8 years, still a vet in real estate. So we're going to talk a lot about today about what the real estate markets, bonds, the traditional finance, TradFi markets in general are telling us about 2026 from somebody who has lived through these different cycles, who is been a realtor through them, who's seen the different crises from 2008 and all that. It's always great to hear from people who have experience in living through these different cycles. That's where I've learned most of what I know. I've been in crypto for 10 years, but I've learned the most from watching interviews and talking directly with people who have decades of experience or lots of experience in other realms. So before we get started today, we're also going to talk about Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about today about we talked a little bit about this on last stream, but the one final confirmation that we see at every one of these Bitcoin, the end of these Bitcoin corrections. We're going to talk about whether we're close. There's actually, without giving it away, there's actually signs of it already happening right now. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about NFTs. A lot of stuff going on around Azuki today. A lot of people kind of up in arms around something that Zagabond said. We're going to talk about today about whether NFTs are cooked or if they're just what I think they're entering a new era that's all about collectability. Lots more stuff to talk about. Before we start, if you guys could please like, retweet, comment, bookmark, always appreciated. Before we get into it, Hemdog, how you doing today, brother?
Doing good, dude. Doing good. It's a great day. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. Blessed to be here.
Exactly.
But let's see. Let's check the comments before we get started. We always like to make these streams super interactive, so I'll be looking at comments, questions throughout the stream. So make sure to do that. Juicy, what's up, brother? How you doing? Calvin, Jeremy, how you doing? What's up, Rojam? Nice to see you. What's up, Misfit Hunter? What's up, Judd? What's up, Stable? What's up, Cal? Alrighty, so all you Calvin. But before we go ahead and get started, we will go ahead and talk about Bitcoin in a bit. But Hemdog, I want to give the people a little bit of a breakdown of your background. So, do you want to go ahead and give people a brief introduction from when you started? First of all, like when did you start in the markets? I think you were telling me yesterday, but for the people, it was first in real estate, stocks, crypto. Where did you get started in the markets?
Yeah, so really, I had always been into investing, and I was like traditionally coming out of high school, going to college, do a finance major with some business background as well, and do all the marketing stuff. But really, finance, and I took the series exams and took some classes of like what it would be like to work on Wall Street and doing that stuff, and it never really felt like it's something I wanted to do on the day to day, even though it interested me for myself. Decided to go into real estate when I was in college, and so I kind of interned and worked in the summers, learning the game, and then went full time afterwards, rather than taking that traditional path and like going to school for and going for your degree and taking that. But so yeah, I started doing real estate full time, and that was in 2019. I officially went full time after taking a little bit of time off after school, but started then. Kind of was experienced enough by that wave that we had come in 2021, 2022 era. So that was awesome, and just kind of from there, when I kind of started going into stocks when we had that big capitulation moment, and it was like you were seeing Meta under $100, Apple under $100, and so going to school for that, I was like, hey, I'm gonna start doing stocks and learning more about this side of the markets, and so that ended up going well. And at like kind of the same time, I started dabbling in crypto as well, and kind of primarily was doing ETH with some Bitcoin, and that's kind of how we're here. I just kept with it. The bear market came, as we know. I was always interested in NFTs, actually. Side note, seeing, because you're a VFriends guy, so kind of saw them through Gary because I had followed him prior for the business stuff. And so once I got into that, it was ETH, Bitcoin, and just learning everything from there.
Amazing. So you so you started like in crypto, dabbling in crypto a little bit before, or like during the that 2021 run. Pretty similar to me, except I kind of started a little bit earlier in the 2017. But that 2019 2020 run, I feel like a lot of us really um saw our first like success, or really started seeing what the potential of crypto, and especially NFTs. So that's a crazy time to get in. So you said, so it went from stocks first, kind of, and then you were telling me yesterday, kind of rotate a lot of your profits into crypto um, around that time. So the real estate stuff, you started around that time as well. That sounds like a pretty crazy.
Yeah, and kind of like the real estate market after that kind of big boom got a little slow, and stocks were doing very well. So I took my profits, and it was at that point that I really was starting to get more into crypto, and ETH was, I remember it was like 800, $900 one summer after in the bear market, and then it was ranging like 1 to 2 grand. And during that time is when I really kind of got into it and started rotating over, learning a lot about NFTs, like who was around in the bear market, who was doing what, trying to learn a bunch of different things. And yeah, mainly just really got to know the ETH ecosystem, so it was great.
Amazing. The NFT side, you remember you were telling me you know you made it a point to talk personally to a lot of these NFT founders and teams. Was this more recently in the last few years, or more during the first boom in like
I
2022?
don't. I think it was just because I was, kind of authentic, just like buying with no real expectation at first, just kind of wanting to get involved with the communities, and so you like typical people, you join, you'd buy their NFT, you'd share it, and then just eventually meeting more communities, getting more involved in all of the projects, and that kind of just led back to like having Garga follow you, or all these project founders, just because it's such like a really small space, and we don't realize that, of how small it is. So when everybody, especially the NFT space, I can tell like when I'm doing more meme coins or something, or altcoins, you get more of that on your feed because that's how the algorithm works. But yeah, just being around, joining communities, and that's pretty much it.
Amazing. I want to get into the NFT stuff a little bit later, but as far as real estate, as far as the in real estate in general, like how have you used your experience in real estate, and kind of the insight you've been able to get on there to kind of better your trading in crypto? Is there any correlation, between the two for you?
Yeah, and I think I realized that because seeing when, stocks were rallying, crypto was rallying back in 21 and stuff. people had money, and people at the same time were buying investment properties, they were buying second homes. You saw more activity in real estate because real estate's a leading indicator. So seeing what people do when they get money, at the same time, I know we've talked about like, hey, you see the watch market doing well, the collectible market doing well. And so when you think about, okay, what drives real estate and what really drove a lot of sales is interest rates. So during that time, interest rates were 2 to 3%. So people were refinancing, they were taking home equity lines, they were buying houses because money at that price is free. I heard a bunch of people in real estate say, when you got interest rates like this, we've never seen them before. Back the truck up and get as much as you can. Because it's unheard of to see that. I remember selling houses for 2.45%. I was seeing people get rates for that, and that's crazy. So with that comes affordability. So more people have access to money, with cheaper rates. Overall, businesses are investing, businesses are hiring, people are spending money because people are making money. So it's all, in my opinion, directly correlated with, our markets at the end of the day. People need to have money, and with interest rates going down, you have access to more money in circulation in the system. Just it all works out. We could go off for a while about it, but yeah, I noticed with real estate just a lot more sales, and we're kind of seeing that now as rates are starting to peep down and the markets are getting better.
Amazing. So I want to get into that, but overall, you think the biggest thing you've been able to take from real estate and see is like the kind of maybe consumer behavior, stuff like that, where that's a big gauge that you've probably been able to use, where you see when people are willing to spend money or are spending money on real estate and all these other things. It's a good correlation
Yeah,
to see if they're
because
willing to spend money on
exactly.
risk assets as well.
Yeah, because when people are making money, they like to spend it. What do people like to spend? It's dependent on the person, but traditionally, houses, they like to buy cars, they like to buy watches, they like to buy collectibles, people like to invest, and that all leads to the economy doing well. So, like when you talk about real estate in general, we had houses. I remember one listing had 36 offers that I had. Went 200,000 over asking price. People have money, the economy is stimulated, so people want to spend it. And second homes, investment homes, first homes, and especially like the rate wise for first time home buyers. I'm pretty sure, don't necessarily quote me exact, but about 1% on the rates is about 100 grand in purchasing power. So as rates fluctuate, so does your purchasing power because if you want to talk in crypto terms, you're buying on leverage. You're putting money down on an asset. So, and traditionally, real estate is a safe asset. So yeah, I mean, consumer behavior, like, okay, money is cheap from the banks. Our home equity, we have a home with equity in it. We're going to use that because it's essentially cheap, free money. Not free, but, cheap money.
Everybody talking about Bitcoin. We will talk about that in a second. I want to hear what Hemdog thinks about the current, um, where we're at with Bitcoin. But also, so right now, real estate, traditional finance, stock indexes, bonds. What are they telling us right now about
Yeah, so when you
crypto?
look at bonds, like I like to look at the 10-year, the yield on it. The 10-year yield on the treasury bond is still over 4%. So I mean, when you have that, people are getting their yield. And traditionally when QE will happen, you're going to see bond prices rise and yields go down.
Just
So
before we go
invest
too much into it, do you want to tell people, just who maybe don't know, what is a 10-year treasury and how we can use it? How you
So buying bonds, like kind of similar to a certified deposit, if people know what that is. And when you look at these yields, if you check back in 2021 with low interest rates, so the yields on the bonds were very low, under 1%. So investors don't want to park their money and get, a small yield. They want to cash out of their bonds as those prices go up and the yields go down and then rotate to more risk assets. And when I think about that, like big, big money, they don't really necessarily need to enter Bitcoin extremely cheap and let it chop. There's people who do, but there's some people who traditionally would rather, okay, the markets look good. We're going to rotate out of here. Interest rates are going down. Risk assets should start going up. Let's go park it. Let's go park it in Bitcoin, which is going to go up quicker because the economy is getting stimulated, rates are cheap, and they rotate out. It's just how it works. Stocks to crypto. That's my opinion, at least. It's like because you have people with money, traditional people who aren't involved in this stuff and who are hearing about it. And they're like, okay, all this stuff is passing, these bills that are coming out, and it's becoming more adopted around. Why don't we, when the time looks right, when the yields go down, why don't we rotate out and go to more risk assets?
Okay, cool. Now, as far as real estate, you were telling me about yesterday. You're starting to see, at least in your market, uh, starting to see at least people starting to buy more, start to list more. What is like the real estate market overall in the U.S.? Kind of telling us about 2026.
Yeah, so it's different every zip code, you know. So that's what's tough is like there's every market is so different. There are places I know like the Florida market's struggling, Austin, like the Texas area. I mean, I know Nashville is slowing up, like where you can go and there's a lot of land available, like the builders are catching up. That was a big issue as well in 2021 when prices were going up, is because it was tough to get materials. So building was slowed down and there was so much demand. So you saw that really, dramatic shift in prices, and also people were moving to different markets, so everything's different. Personally, I'm more in a second home kind of vacation market, and there's not a lot of land, so it's held very strong, but it truly is different by the zip code. But nationally, I mean, we're seeing home equity lines being pulled out more. I think there was about 14% expected increase on that. We saw 30 to 40% increase in mortgage applications over the last couple months. So that tells you right there that people are starting to spend money, and it takes time. You can't expect, the government to say, hey, we're going to stop QT and everything just start pumping right away. That's just not how it is. It's going to take time, but all the indicators, in my opinion, everything's pointing in the right direction for a
Cool.
good few years ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get into that a little bit. So I know there's a lot of confusion on people. A lot of people just don't even understand QE, QT. There's a lot that goes into it. There's different kinds of QE. There's like they're calling right now what they're doing stealth QE, where it's supposed to be temporary, not exactly permanent changes to the balance sheet. But overall, QE, QT, what's the situation overall with the slowing of the lowering of rates we were talking about yesterday that potentially they may be halting, stop lowering, and that could have an effect. But overall, where do you think we're headed into with the QE, QT, and what effect do you think it's going to have on the markets over the next few years?
Well, that's a tough question. You're throwing me right on the spot right there. But QT, basically quantitative tightening of the markets, restricting, it's used by the Fed to restrict the economy and kind of hold it down in simpler terms and help fight inflation. Higher rates, the economy's less stimulated, there's upward pressure on things. The Fed traditionally sells some of their assets that they hold. And then with QE, kind of the opposite. And if you look, the last time they really started QE was in, I believe, October 2019, but it went full blown in March of 2020 with what happened with COVID and stuff. Because obviously, with all those fears and you see rates go low, they want to make sure the economy well and giving stimuluses. So you see what happens in the market after that. But what I think is interesting, and kind of one of my takes on why I think this is really just the beginning, whether there's a huge chop out, whatever it happens, I'm holding and buying the dip because I really think that the next few years will do well. Because something I saw the other day is this is the longest period in time that we've had QT in US history. So I mean, I don't think they go straight full blown, hey, we're announcing this, everything would start going rampant and inflation would pick back up again. But I mean, stealth QE is used by the Fed. And then eventually, I mean, who knows when it'll happen? It's data driven as well. They have to see their data and make sure, like right now, basically, let's make sure the government reopens, number one, and two, um, the rate drop that's expected for next month. You got to take it each step at a time, but overall, I think it's a good outlook for the next few years. I'm optimistic on how many, but my gut says we have at least 2 to 3 years of good markets ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to think the same thing. I think we were saying yesterday how the Bitcoin has been and crypto has been going up pretty steadily despite not great macro conditions. At least the rates were still high. You could imagine when rates are low, some kind of QE. Obviously, that I think it'll just act as fuel on the fire and could be, like you just said, what pushes us into 26, 27. And overall, yeah, who knows what timing? Timing's also always, really hard. But what I've seen from markets over the last several years is markets tend to front run um, narratives and stuff. So we're going to go over in Bitcoin right now into what I think is probably the last kind of confirmation that we're like just starting to see right now that I think is going to point to upside. But overall, to close this off, I agree. I do think QE, QT, it's hard to know. Like, they could stop rate cutting for, you know 6 months for all we know. But I think what's probably likely to happen, looking at the charts, everything, is that the lowering of the rates again is going to make it better conditions for businesses to lend and borrow money. And very likely, I think the markets are going to front run the starting of QE and the end of QT into 2026. So that's interesting to keep an eye on. And I don't think it's necessary for them to go full QE for the markets to run. But we did see in 2020 what happened. And we see, like we were talking about a few other streams ago, that Trump has been teasing direct stimulus to the people with stuff like, COVID tariff stimulus checks. Even if stuff like that doesn't happen, there's a lot of things they've been talking about letting the economy run hot, doing spending and all that. So yeah, I think this will just add fuel to the fire. Let's go ahead and talk about Bitcoin and kind of the last few weeks. I know you and I have talked about it before, but Bitcoin, for those of you guys are pulling up right now, I did just a retweet. We're just talking. I'm here with my boy Hemdog. We're just talking about real estate, the bond markets, and kind of what they're pointing to for 2026 and how they could potentially add fuel to the fire for like the bull run for 2026 for Bitcoin. So make sure to watch that back if you're just hopping in now. But Bitcoin, last stream talked about how I broke down, you know, by the charts, fundamentals, institutional stuff, regulation stuff, macro, on why this is very likely just another April or summer of 2024 type correction. The biggest giveaway, again, is just the corrective behavior. Whereas in November of 2021, Bitcoin peaked out in November and went down 50% in a matter of like 6 or 7 weeks. So literally went from 67K, 6 weeks later was all the way down 50%. Just in the price action alone, all these past corrections from summer of 24, April, were all corrective in nature, where Bitcoin came down 10 or 15%, but gave us multiple bounces in between, choppy behavior, consolidated, and went up. Same thing in April. Topped out, came down, chopped out, and went back up. I think we're going to see we're already seeing signs with this bounce here from November 4th, that this, especially this leg here, combining it with this, is not impulsive behavior like we saw in 2021, and is part of a obvious coil up like we saw again in April of 24, or April of this year, and December of 24. The biggest giveaway again is that bounce that again confirms corrective behavior. And now the final, if you guys look here, and I encourage everybody to go look at charts themselves. I feel like very few people actually backdate charts. A lot of this stuff is easy to pick up if you just look. If everybody looking here, what is the number one thing that we have at the end of all of these corrections? Here, even. That's consolidation, right? These bottoms and tops, I always talk about this. Tops and bottoms, the number one thing that they always consist of is some type of consolidation before they reverse. So, like you saw in summer of 24, Bitcoin consolidated for two months here. 2 months, went up. April, Bitcoin held the 77K low for about a month and went higher. And then now we've started this low on November 4th, 3 days ago. The final confirmation for Bitcoin and what I'm looking for to enter a meaningful long position is for Bitcoin to hold this 99, 100K low for a few more weeks at least. Now, it's possible that Bitcoin does a V shape reversal and just goes straight up. We've seen it. We saw ETH do something like that a couple months ago, where it came down kind of a V shape down and just went V shape straight back up. But you can go and backdate these charts yourself. Very rarely does a Bitcoin or a correction end in a V shape. It's almost always some type of consolidation to get people sleeping and bored before it goes higher, right? So that's what I'm looking for Bitcoin, ETH. Really, I when perps, I'm really just playing ETH and Sol. So to enter a more meaningful ETH and Sol position, I want to see Bitcoin and ETH and Sol hold these lows that they formed for Bitcoin 100K for a couple more weeks for most of this month. If and when Bitcoin's able to hold this low for most of this month, 2 or 3 weeks, again, the last two corrections gave us a month plus, but at least a few weeks of consolidation. I think that'll be enough to confirm that bottom. And I could see us front running the QE that we talked about earlier, the lowering of the rates, all of that into 2026. And that still remains my base case is that Bitcoin is going to chop out the rest of November and probably move up into December, end of year, and kind of really confirm the death of the 4 year cycle. To me, when that happens, when everybody realizes, oh shit, the 4 year cycle is over, I think a lot of people there's going to be a lot of FOMO and, it really kicks things off into 2026. So, Hemdog, what are your thoughts on the current market? Do you think this is just another correction? Are you seeing signs of the opposite? I mean, what are your thoughts of the last few weeks in general?
So yeah, obviously nobody likes to see downward price action, but it's healthy for markets. And so you kind of have to, like you said, zoom out and look what it's doing. And so I think you have a really good point that I actually picked up on the other day, where you were talking about how it looks different by just chopping and consolidating than we saw at a top, where you see more violent, red candles. But pull up the moving average, would you, on there if you
Yeah.
can?
Which one? The
All of
50?
them. But yeah, or the 50 would be.
Yeah, because I think I have to add them individually. So give me 1 second.
Yeah, so when you really look at the corrections that we've gone through on the way up, it's funny when I was talking to a couple of my friends when we were in the 120s and I was saying, hey, it kind of looks like we have to go back to 98K. And everyone starts joking around. They're like, oh, you're crazy. But at the same time, every time Bitcoin's gone on its next leg up, it consolidates. And so you kind of want to compare it, like you said, to the last ones and see what happens. And to me, they all look the same. So right now I'm, buying dips. I don't really actively do trades. I don't do leverage, so I don't do any of that. I kind of like to stack on dips and hold for what I think is coming. And I think the market's gonna, like I said earlier, have a good couple years. I mean, these are the dips to buy when you look at it. Like these are the spots you want to do it in. Typically, investing, buy when everybody else is fearful. Buy the blood. Everybody gets so excited when things are going up, and then the same time when you check the fear and greed index when things go down, it's a complete different story. But I mean, I'm very bullish. We're seeing these lows holding right now. It's a good correction before heading into what I think is going to be a great market. And the whole goal of a bull market is to leave everybody sidelined. If everybody was there and everybody was doing well, doing it how it should be, everyone would be rich and wouldn't have to do it. So that's my opinion. I like where things are. I think these are good zones to buy. I like Bitcoin and ETH. I like Sol as well. Mainly, I stick to those now. With a couple other meme coins, though. You know that.
Cool, cool. Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, mostly you've been sticking to. I know you like Mog. Um, what are some other memes you've been buying besides Mog, and kind of what is the criteria for stuff that you've been buying that you think will kind of come out of the ashes of this? Been a long corrective period for memes and alts. Almost a
Yeah,
year.
exactly. And so, like my take on that, I like Mog. I like Mog. I have a good amount of Mog, and I like Pepe. and I kind of stick there because I like to do kind of the major runners that were on ETH, the bigger players, rather than the smaller cap stuff. I also like SPX. I don't have any of that though, but I wouldn't mind buying that one as well. I used to do like the really small cap stuff and try to do that. And with just work and stuff, it's easier for me to use that as a beta play to ETH and stack them when they have good buying opportunities. And yeah, the meme market's tough, just like NFT market. But that kind of circles back to my opinion is how I had a post about this. It's like, how can we expect any of these things to be going to all time highs and doing well when ETH is at 3,400? That's our main alt. It's a major. And so my eyes are looking for, a run to ETH to go to all time highs, hold 5,000 as support, and see what happens to alts then. I think it's a good opportunity. And I think you said this before, if you're willing to buy these when they're on sale and just wait it out.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, yeah, like the Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, they drive the entire market, right? Like not day to day, like people like to deny it, but it's when Bitcoin is moving up for months at a time, that's when you see the trenches start to, gain back health. That's when you see the memes and alts start to move. That's always how it's been. So I 100% agree with that. You buy in. It's like, why should we expect altcoins, even the big altcoins like XRP and all these ones with millions of cult fans all over the world, institutional backing, but especially meme coins. Why should we expect that to be, going up when, Bitcoin and Ether in corrections? And then you go even further down the risk curve with NFTs. I'm interested to see how do you think that plays out? Do you think um, on the inverse that as Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol go up, that's when you start to see money flow into the alts and memes, and then eventually NFTs?
Yeah, and that's always a question to debate with people and have that discussion because, okay, Ethereum goes to 10,000. Is a mutant ape still going to be one ETH? And my opinion on it is right now, USD matters. The USD price of stuff matters. And if you look at a lot of the NFTs, they kind of respect their lows, I want to say, in historic USD price. ETH was cheaper. And my theory is a lot of the reason why last NFT bull market did very well is because ETH was technically cheap. And I say that because a lot of the people buying them and a lot of it fueled, by ETH, obviously, ETH pulled off great returns. There was so much money made in that ecosystem. So when somebody bought 100 ETH for 500 bucks a pop, when they see ETH at 4,000, 3,000, $5,000 almost last cycle, it's pretty much free money to them. And they're seeing another trend happening, and all the money made in the ETH ecosystem is pumping the ETH assets and what's popular at the time. And people like to do what's popular. It's kind of like when you saw meme coins on Solana doing so well and Solana trading upwards of 250, $300 when Trump dropped his meme coin. So I think the same thing about this cycle is we haven't had that part come where ETH whales are saying this ETH is technically cheap to me because I'm up a bunch of money in profit. Let's go start buying some apes that are at a historic low, and then that starts and it's just a whole liquidity. Like I said, I don't really believe in the 4-year cycle anymore. I believe in the liquidity cycle. I don't know another time where Bitcoin has topped out during a QT period. And so when I look at what ETH needs to do right now, I'm like, okay, you send ETH to $5,000, $10,000. There's a lot of people who get, rich off ETH. And then what about ETH alts? What is Mog? What is Pepe? What is any other of the ETH alts do? What does Ondo do? What does any of these? So when that money is people make money off that, they kind of say, hey, where else can I put it? And I think once the money is starting to be made and you're seeing ETH go up and all that, I think you see it rotate to NFTs. I think people need to make the money first and then start their collectibles.
Okay. Yeah. Now I want to hear your thoughts on the overall NFT market in general. Before we do that, if you guys could, I want to do a quick reset. First of all, if this is your first time in the stream, um, make sure to say first time. I want to see who's new in here. Shout out to everybody. I see a lot of people, a lot of regulars. What's up, Miss D? What's up, Crypto Carl? What's up, Scorky? We're talking NFTs right now. Earlier on in the show, we were talking about the real estate market, the bond markets, and what it's telling us potentially about 2026. And then we went a little bit over Bitcoin. I'm gonna go more into that a bit later. But like, comment, retweet, bookmark, always appreciated. Am I in any soul coins right now? Yes, I am. We'll talk about what I'm doing as far as that in a bit. Third time, always see you, Mr. G. Appreciate you. What's up, Wayne Mammal? How you doing? What's up, Dane G? And also, we are on YouTube and not, yeah, we're streaming on YouTube as well. So definitely go and check us out on there. The YouTube UI is still a lot better than the Twitter one. So if you're on YouTube, we're going to put some long form content up there in the near future. But for now, shoot us a sub, YouTube, TikTok, everything at the top right there. What's up, Yap? I see you, brother. But NFTs, hem. I'm in the belief that now overall, NFTs are we've kind of cooled off from all the hype of token launches and holder benefits kind of being the main focus, and we've seen pudgy penguins, bored apes go up to 12, 13, 14 ETH, whatever it was, and come back down under their 2024 lows, down to 5 or 6 ETH now. A lot of people did seem to be in despair. I personally think that from here, the only way to go up from here, and the only ones that the NFT projects that'll win are the ones that create demand in the general public or to the masses to actually want to collect that NFT, whether it be collecting the actual NFTs, whether it be cards, toys, comics, all of that. That's the only way that these things are going to be worth something. Holder benefits are great. I think their holders themselves are the original 10,000 fans, play a huge role in the brand success. But if the brand is not creating things that the people themselves, like the general public, new collectors want to collect, then I think they're cooked. And that's why I think you're seeing Azuki today, Zagabond, talk about how he wants to make sure that Azuki is getting revenue from the TCG, and they're going to make that a big part of the focus. A lot of people, I think, are misunderstanding that, thinking that he's not going to be rewarding holders, or this means that they're turning away from holders. I think that this is, again, a necessary thing where the only way these NFT brands even survive, let alone go back to hundred thousands of dollars in floor price, is if the people in the general public actually give a shit about the NFTs, right? So that's why my main bet, and why I have so much confidence in VFriends, is because Gary V, he's already showing it. I think he has the real world channels to people outside of NFTs and Web3 that is going to bring in thousands and millions of people eventually into VFriends collectibles. But I want to hear overall. I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but I want to hear overall, Hemdog. What are your thoughts on the overall like NFT market in general the last few weeks? Why these prices came down, under these 2024 lows. And I mean, where do NFTs go from here?
Yeah, I think you were spot on though, just saying we had that hype that was coming around, with the tokens. And ETH was doing well. We saw a good run on ETH, and so you see NFTs start to do well, in my opinion. But then after that, market turns south. People get scared. Oh, I think it's over. Let me sell everything and get their ETH. I think it's cooling off, like you said, to their below their lows. And I mean, I'm bullish on the market long term on ETH. So I think that NFTs do well with that. And I like you're saying, those NFT projects that are really, building a real brand and a presence around all those blue chips, like you're talking about, VFriends, Azuki, Yuga, Pudgy Penguins, Moonbirds, all these, a bunch, Doodles, Good Vibes, Quirkies, Creeps. I like a lot of them, and I think it's good opportunity if you have money to spare and view it as a collectible. That's what I think, and I love to see what Gary's doing. I love how he builds stuff, and he has, like, you're seeing that awareness with Topps Chrome. You had Macy's collab in the past, and there's no better way to push the brand than really get out there and make people aware of it that are outside of this space, because that's the overall goal, is onboarding. I heard a couple. I know an account, Dave Satoshi on Twitter, was at an XRP event in. He was at an XRP event in New York lately, and was talking about board apes. And people are interested to join. I think it really gets a new crowd interested when you see these prices. Like, hey, I always was interested. I always wanted to own one. These are a good price, and it's just getting, sellers out and new buyers in. But overall, when you see the supply of these projects, it doesn't take a lot of liquidity. It doesn't take a lot of liquidity to send anything. And people follow what people do. So, I mean, I'm bullish on ETH. I'm bullish on the NFTs. I don't know if we get another crazy NFT run like we did in 21. And what I mean by that is by, new mints popping off every day and staying around for very long. I think we kind of see people at first gravitate towards those projects that have been around for a while, and you see those do well, and then from there, just kind of like the meme coin market, when majors do well, you see other stuff rise. But who knows what we'll get. I'm bullish long term, especially on the technology of it when you think about what an NFT actually is, and like being able to go to ape fests, making those connections. It's more than just having that and trying to trade it, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's kind of two scenarios that NFTs go over the next few years. Is one, there's some kind of, VR, AR gets huge in the next year. There's some kind of digital asset integration, or GTA 6, or one of these, tops, or one of these big companies drop some type of NFT integration that's kind of creates a mania. The technology and everything kind of gets adopted way quicker than we think, and pushes us up to a mania, and NFTs kind of go up into 27, 28. Or there, we don't get any of that. There's no big catalyst that comes, and instead it's just all about what brand actually builds something that the masses care about. Like you said, you touched on it perfectly. There's only 10,000 Series One V Friends, only 10,000 Bored Apes, 10,000 Pudgies. To where if these brands get at all big, there's only 10,000 of these things. They're so scarce and rare that they're gonna get sent. It's just, again, all about whether the general public knows or cares about the brand. Web3 holding benefits, and this is somebody who owns $200,000 of these V Friends. I'd love nothing more than to have an airdrop of a coin, but I realize that's not a coin drop. Is not what's going to make V Friends the next Disney or Marvel. It's the comics. It's the going to trade shows and doing all the stuff that they're doing. That's not very exciting. It's whatever. It might not reflect in floor price right now, but again, it's going to drive the brand into the mind share and the awareness of the general public, which is going to make these NFTs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars someday, in my opinion. So I don't know which path we're going to go on. If you would have asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago or a month ago, I would have told you 80% chance probably we see a mania or a bull run. Now I still lean towards we probably will, because all I think it would take is some type of catalyst or some type of company launching some type of NFT integration, or a bunch of them at the same time, to push us into a mania. But I'm fully accepting to the fact that that may not happen, and this may be a slower build, couple years for these companies to really solidify themselves in the general public. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I want to know what you guys think in the chat. Do you what do you think of the NFTs? Somebody asked Hemdog, what are some NFTs that you've been holding for the longest?
I really like Jack Butcher. I like art projects, Obviously, the CryptoPunks kind of started all art. PFP, I don't have punks, but Chromie Squiggles, I would like. That's at the top of my list. But what am I holding? A lot of Jack Butcher checks, VV editions, and some originals. Bored Ape, Corkies, I like. V Friends, I have. Let me go right now. I got Good Vibes. Um,
What do you like about Good Vibe? From what I've seen, like I've kind of watched them from the outside and
yeah.
see them come
So
up. Like, what do you think is really like push Good Vibes to success while the rest of the market's been down? I mean,
so
relative
you
to investment
see,
and everything else.
it's a new mint that did very well. That's number one. It's something new to the market that has been around, and they have good founders behind it who have great experience behind them, working at Reddit. And they just have experience in the business world. But then obviously the art, it appeals to people. And, there's nothing one thing that they're doing. And I want more good vibes. I like what they're doing, and I like it because I saw what they did with the strategy token. They kind of fully embraced it and made it their ecosystem token. And they're, in my opinion, putting their money where their mouth is. Putting, if you look at their posts, I've been reading about it and everything they're doing, but just go on their page and see what they're doing and how they're working that flywheel and where they're putting their money. I really like how that is going on, and just, you always have that player that will come into the market as a new NFT and do well. And I think that's an advantage as well. It's nothing they did, but this is just like there's an old bias against some NFTs who maybe didn't deliver what people wanted and stuff like that. This is a fresh slate. And I think they've done a really good job aligning interests with the brand, the company, and their holders, especially, and how it should be done. Like, I really like how they made it their ecosystem token. And rather than having a TGE, they were buying alongside their community. I thought that showed a lot. What other NFTs? I mean, there's a lot.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Um,
Miladies, I like.
okay,
Those are a good one. I don't hold one, but they've been a notorious blue chip. Obviously,
yeah,
like Other Deeds, Codas, Creeps are on the list of mine. I have a big favorites list I'm going through.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Wrecked Guy, Cool Cats. I like them all. I think they've made a presence and they have an opportunity to do well once the market comes around.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think yeah, really for me it was the IP plays, the few like 3 to 5, maybe 10 of them that I think will make it out of this to become pretty sizable brands. And then the art, obviously with the Jack Butcher, CryptoPunks are on their own, and then I think a wild card that if the stars align with these two markets kind of heating up at the same time, that meme coin NFTs I think could be pretty big. Um, One that's coming up is the FWOG NFT drop. I think, from what I've been reading and from these people working on it, this, obviously Guru, the artist, and then the other guy, B, who's working with them, it looks like they're making a big push to build out the IP for FWOG, which I think it has a lot of potential. The art I think is appealing, could be appealing to the masses if they're able to do it the right way. And then they're teasing this some type of fidgetal drop. Um, I think what they're probably going to do is the new NFT drop they're having is going to have some, just like Moonbirds did. I think some type of physical, maybe figurine or something, because they're partnering with Fidgetals, which Fidgetals does some stuff with RWA and cards. I don't know what this is about, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Um, I want to talk real quickly about yeah, I'll give you my NFT checklist too. Like I said, it's a lot of what he was saying. I think there's going to be maybe 3 to 5 of the 2021 IP projects, the Bored Apes, V Friends, Pudgy Penguins, Azuki, and maybe not every single one of those survives. Like, I think there's only going to be a few that really make it. I root for all of those. Um, but really, not overcomplicating it, like those 4 or 5, the art stuff. And then I think a lot of projects that are going to be successful someday just haven't been launched yet. But uh, I want to talk about the strategy tokens really quickly. I personally, think that the strategy tokens are a bet on an NFT resurgence. I think they could have their mini runs, even if the NFTs don't run. But if they're going to have sustainable runs over time, it's going to have to come from organic buying of the NFTs. Punks, you can argue the punk strategy token. There could be organic, a rise of punks, even if the NFT market isn't doing so hot. But what do you think these strategy tokens go from here? Do you think their only shot of their success is if there's an NFT bull run? Do you think they could run without that? Me personally, I've been accumulating some of the punk strategy, the pudgy strategy, and a few others. But I mean, what are your thoughts from here?
Yeah, I mean, I like them, and like you said, they're a direct bet on NFTs. So I don't see how they do well without the NFTs doing well. They're correlated with each other. I think if you believe in NFTs long term, it's a great bet to make right now. Because they're deflationary, and so you see that. Like, I'm gonna pull it up right now. Yeah, when I look at percentage burned, and everything leads back to Punkster. So obviously, if you want the safest bet, go with the Bitcoin of this, which is Punkster. But then you see, okay, 5.2% of Punkster has been burned. 9.1% of Vibe strategy has been burned. And so, how that works is basically when people trade the token, fees are accumulated and it goes into a pool, and then some goes to the creator. And so, this pool builds up enough to buy something from the floor and listing it at 1.2x higher than floor. Good Vibes actually changed it to 1.1x, and that's why I like them too. They adapt. You see them working. But anyway, so once one of those NFTs sells, the strategy holds that NFT and it's listed above, and eventually it'll sell when NFTs go up. That repurchases the native token, which is whatever it is: Punkster, Vibester, Apester, Chimpster. Oh yeah, that's another NFT I like a lot is Chimpers. I don't know how I forgot that,
Yeah,
but
chimpers for me. I didn't back in the day. I haven't really dove too much into it. I've seen a
I've
couple of
had them for years.
yeah, I've seen a couple of the founders on the timeline, looked a little bit into it, and then recently, really putting them on my watch list. I'll probably grab a few. I was
No,
surprised.
they're great.
I
I
was
can't
probably
believe I left that out. That's embarrassing because I've held them for years. They're great over there,
what
And
was the
so,
peak of chimpers ETH wise back in the day?
what'd you say?
What was the ETH peak, ETH all time high for chimpers?
I don't. I feel like a few ETH. Let me check right now.
Yeah, I was surprised to see him at zero point 0.5. That's crazy. I think that's some good value here long
Yeah,
term.
so all time for Chimpers was a couple ETH, 2 ETH area, 2.25 area. Yeah, I mean, I like what they've done. And basically when the strategy holds something and it resells to somebody, so somebody new came, bought it, it burns the native token. So it's really a flywheel and it's all interconnected. And as token goes up, people want to buy the token, some people want to buy the NFT. Like if you can't afford to buy a punk, you can participate in buying this token. So
Yep.
when punks go up, the token goes up, and when token goes up, punks go up. And the same in reverse though. It's going to go down as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also the play into it that there has to be demand for the token too. Like people have to be paying attention to this flywheel. But yeah, if it and also burning a token uh, doesn't inherently increase demand, but it puts a lot of attention that usually leads to um, more money coming into it. What's up, Fluff Punk?
He's right too. I was just about to say, Fluff Punk is right. I believe punks are going to 1 million, like minimum.
Yeah, I think like Gary Vee said in that interview the other day, like every other one of these projects has a lot of work to do except punks. I think punks, even if NFTs as a whole are still in a winter for another 3 to 5 years, I think punks on them to themselves are a status symbol. It's going to be where people pour money into as ETH and the digital landscape grows. So I agree, Flu Punk. Is that what's his? I know this is showing me people's ads. What's his? I know him and I just connected recently. What's his name? Oh, Rhythm King. Okay, perfect. Shout out to you, Rhythm King. I appreciate you for being on and appreciate the follow today. That's a sick punk. Rhythm King, how long have you had that punk for, brother? That one's sick. Great show, fam. Appreciate you for being here. Is this your homie, Hemdog? You know, Rhythm King?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. You guys are friends. Nice. Um, but somebody asked, oh, January this year? Hell yeah, bro. Nice timing. Bro, need your opinion on Valor. Yeah, we can pull up some meme charts really quick too. Welcome to the stream. Valor. Let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Hem. How much time do you think you got? You can hop off whenever, brother, if you gotta go.
No, it's cool.
Okay, cool. You stay on. Stay on as long as you love. This is great so far. Valor. Let me see here. So Valor, I will say, I do still hold some Valor that I bought a little bit over here. But overall, it has been consolidating for a while here, for now about 2 or 3 weeks. Like I always say, you want to be cautioned when there's any type of multiple weeks of consolidation because oftentimes you're going to get some type of reversal. So to be honest, if Valor starts trading under, let me pull up the, if Valor starts trading, where is it on here? There it is. If Valor starts trading under this low at 0.008 and starts doing this, you could start to see a bigger reversal. Um, Sometimes you'll see price do a corrective consolidation where it uses the consolidation as a correction to go back up. But that's probably like 20-30% of the time. Most of the time we get maybe even less, I would say. Most of the time, consolidation usually leads to some type of reversal. So you want to watch out for that. Now, if it's able to do this and then chop out and recover back past that low, then that's good. But I would just really caution again to make sure that it trades and shifts off this low instead of trading under it. Other than that, I don't really have too much of an opinion on anything other than the chart for Valor. Somebody asked, how do we know whether the Bitcoin correction is over, and how do we kind of know the difference? Kind of paraphrasing what he said. Um, in in short, the market, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Nvidia, gold, everything is in one. Every asset in the world is in one of three major phases at any given time, and that is impulsing, which are the big moves up and down. Think the big crypto bull markets on the higher time frames. And there's impulses, corrections, which come in between, which we got obviously summer correction in 24, the correction in April. It's a pullback or cool off period. And then the third phase is peaking, which are tops and bottoms. Each of these three characteristics or each of these three phases have distinct characteristics or things we look for to identify where we're at in that cycle or phase. And determining what phase we're in determines what behavior we do going forward, whether that's buy, sell, accumulate, take profits. And what I'm getting at here is that the price action we're seeing here from since July till now is exhibiting corrective behavior to me. Okay. Corrective behavior oftentimes is and choppy and slow in nature where big reversals like we saw in 2021 are very impulsive. As I always use this example, Bitcoin went from 65K down to 35K in a matter of 6 weeks. That's impulsive. That's a bear market. That's what you don't want to get caught in. Versus these corrections that we've seen during this bull market, summer of 24, what we saw in April, and now is corrective, where yes, price is coming down 10 or 15, 20%. But what do we see here 2 or 3 days ago? A bounce. Again, move down, but that move down have bounces in between, choppiness, again exhibiting corrective behavior. So that's one thing again on the charts that I like to look for is as long as the price again gives us bounces and shows these corrective channel like structures, oftentimes again that's going to point to this just being a correction and us moving higher. Again, it's a lot more complicated than just the charts. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it, but what I would be looking for and be kind of worried about and start to caution people that maybe we are in a bear market is if Bitcoin were to start, when it started coming down this week, if it just went down 30-40% in a matter of a week with no pullbacks. At that point I'd start to say, okay, looks like we're probably in a bear. You should be probably looking for pullbacks to de-risk or, wait it out. But that's not what we're seeing. Again, we're seeing a bounce, and then, the stuff we went over before with QT starting to end, QE starting to potentially start again. We see the regulatory clarity where the SEC, the CFTC, all the other regulators are like together on creating regulatory framework for crypto. You have the S&P 500 in a correction, unlike the talk we got in November 21, where the stock market also was in a big correction, went down 20%. Oh, that was in February. Back here, the S&P 500 went down 25%. That's not what we're seeing here. So really chart wise, to answer your question, is I look for if the higher time frame chart is exhibiting corrective behavior or impulsive behavior. Impulsive behavior, you don't want to get caught in. That point, you want to look to de-risk or definitely slow down on DCAing. But when you see corrective behavior like we're seeing here on the higher time frames, that's when I think, okay, I'm going to start to continue to accumulate the great coins that are down right now and start to have a bullish bias for the coming months. Now, the final piece to the puzzle for this Bitcoin correction and what we see, like the final icing on the cake for every one of these corrections, is some type of consolidation for a couple weeks. This one, we got a month of consolidation. The last one in 2024, we saw 2 months of consolidation. But what I'm kind of looking to see is for Bitcoin to hold this low at 100K for most of November. And if we're able to do that, I think very likely Bitcoin bottoms out at 100, maybe wicks below a couple times, and then moves up into end of year, front runs all the great shit I just talked about right now, and moves up into 2026, confirms the 4 year cycle is over, and creates a lot of FOMO, I think, heading into the new year. But hope that answers your question. Um, Hemdog, anything else that's happening lately that you think we should touch on? Oh, he hopped off. Okay, he must have to get a handle a call. But we're about to hit an hour in. I'll kick it on here and review some stuff and look at charts and stuff. Oh, Hemdog, hop back in. What's up, brother? You hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. You had to handle a call.
No, I thought your audio was messed up. It might just be mine. I don't know if
Oh,
anybody else is experiencing it. Maybe with my Wi-Fi or something.
Jesse, were you able to hear me? You could hear me. Okay,
It's
perfect.
good now. It must have been my connection thing. It like put your. It wasn't. I didn't hear you for a second, but now I do.
Okay, amazing, perfect. Yeah, I was just talking about Bitcoin a bit and what we're looking for to kind of finish this correction. What anything else this week that happened? You think we should touch on and talk to the people about?
Yeah, Bitcoin hitting the perfect dip range, and everybody's freaking out. I love it. I mean, we could go lower, but I'm just bullish on what's coming in the next, you know, 12 months. I'm bullish on the economy. I think we're making progress compared to where it was. And I mean, when you really look at it, I like how you said it wasn't as like you didn't see it as fast. You see a corrective nature here in the chart rather than just dumping,
Exactly.
and it always wicks to the same zone right before. I have my
Yep.
moving averages up right to the 50, and it starts its next leg up there. We need that healthy consolidation.
Would you say what's kind of given you so much conviction and peace of mind and bullishness is looking at these other alternative indicators outside of price action, like the economy,
Exactly.
all of that?
And invest responsibly, obviously. I'm a big believer of just putting it there when you have it on a good buy zone and waiting rather than trying to, be trying to time the market. Obviously, just spend time in the market, they say. And I see Judd's post right there about X copy. I love X copy as well. I saw that. But yeah, I'm bullish on the macro factors and indicators that are taking place right now. And so I think all dips should be bought and just hold and DFTU, as Raul would say.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm in the big belief too that I think the 4 year cycles last time just lined up with the business cycles. And, like Raul and all of these other guys that are kind of experts on the business cycle and liquidity, looks like that 2026 probably extends it into that at least. I think he was saying probably Q2, maybe Q3 2026 at least. But I don't know. I think there's a good possibility that as long as we don't get too overheated and don't see a huge mania, that Bitcoin could continue to grind up with big corrections like this um, for years to come, just like the S&P 500 has since 2014.
I
20,
think so. I think that's what's loading, and they got to shake people out, and you buy the dips. I think there's going to be an alt season. I think there's going to be all of this, and it's just a waiting game. I like what Raul said about timing as well.
do you know?
You
Do you
know,
know? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, just like spring to summer, I think is going to be fun next year. I think the Santa rally comes this winter. I think it's just you really got to be patient and trust what's happening. You also have the Clarity Act being worked on,
Yeah,
so there's a lot of
exactly.
good things that are
Clarity
coming. I
Act.
mean,
Clarity Act. They're making exemptions for crypto businesses. That's why I kind of wanted to. That's what I was touching on a second ago. I think that's what's given me so much conviction over the years and remain allowed me to remain so bullish, kind of when everybody else is kind of freaking out. Is not just the charts. I think there's definitely signs and clues on the charts too, but the biggest thing is those things outside of the charts. Like I watch these interviews and get nerdy and shit, and watch these interviews with like experts in it who've traded through these different liquidity cycles before, and these different macro things, and when it comes to a project basis like Pengu, what got me so bullish when it was down 80 or 90% is watching these interviews with Luca and just seeing these other things they're talking about that don't necessarily reflect in price right away, but they do months later. I mean, just during this April correction, we were holding these streams when everybody was focused so much on price. We were talking a lot about the stuff about the tariff stuff, about how a lot of it is just about posturing and negotiation, and about how all these positive, amazing things are going on for crypto in the background. That's not only going to lead to another bull run, but make sure that crypto's here for years to come so that we have shit to trade. So yeah, I mean, I think just paying attention and studying these things outside of prices, allows us to get a lot of clarity and not.
Yeah, I'm bullish. You know my stance. I'm a perma bull. I guess you could call. I'm just bullish on growth long term. I don't try to leverage trade. I don't try to quick flip stuff. You know, I got wrecked doing that in the past. Obviously, every trader blows up an account or two, or maybe three or four in Hemdog's case. But hey, you learn from it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. But I see I see the question about the Beaver Moon thesis right here. I want to
Yes,
address that because
yes,
Hemdog put the tinfoil hat on first, and then it was funny seeing that stuff go around. But really, I had a buddy who kind of got me into crypto, and I went to college with him, and he always would tell me, hey man, it's not just charts, it's charts and astrology. And I was like, what is he talking about? I'm like, this kid has this is ridiculous. And then he kept pushing on it. And so the other day I was looking at charts and I was like, man, price action is just weird. It doesn't make sense. Everybody, there's no euphoria. I don't believe there's a top without the euphoria. Um, like what's going on? And so I start looking at the moon patterns then because I put the tinfoil hat on and I saw that we had a full moon right after our new moon. The new moon candles went red, and we had a full moon coming, and it happened to be the beaver moon, the largest moon of the year. And they called it a beaver moon because the hunters used to trap the beavers and take their pelts for trade season. So the market makers trying to trap people and take their bags before bull run season. I just thought it was funny, and then I started really going down a rabbit hole looking up chart patterns with moons. And obviously, you can't go by this. Like it's not you can't just rely on the moon. But it's funny how they line up with reversal patterns. And yeah, I thought it was funny.
I
That's
remember
pretty
looking at
much
this
it.
like 3 or 4 years ago and seeing these line up, and I was just like, "What the fuck is going on here?" I wanted to have P, which she's usually a regular on the stream. I wanted to have her come up. She's really into astrology and moons and all that stuff. I wanted to get more of an expert's view on this.
Yeah, it's
You and I,
funny.
you and I
Not to
don't.
interrupt you, but I work with a guy who used to be a paramedic, and he would tell me that they would hate those days because apparently there is something about how it affects human behavior based on the gravitational pull and how people act and everything. And so when I looked at the chart, I was like, damn, October 21st, we were pumping right before that. And then we got some green or red candles. And I'm thinking, you know what? Nothing makes sense anymore. We have all this bullish stuff happening. I don't believe that it's a market top. The only faith is left in the beaver moon. So that's where it came as a joke. And I thought it was funny.
I mean, whatever allows you to fucking keep conviction, dude. Right?
I was just like,
A lot of people say the charts are fucking astrology too. Honestly, no. I remember
that's what I'm
having,
saying. Yeah. Kind of
I mean,
weird.
that guy Max that we had on, Mike Williams. This guy, he's had, like I said, 30, 40 years of experience. And he says at TA, it's not all bullshit, but for the most part, it just allows people to feel comfortable to enter positions. It allows them to justify in their mind of why they should enter a position. And in a lot of ways, if that allows you to do that in a responsible way, then it's a good thing, even if it doesn't have any direct correlation to the actual, what's actually happening. But I don't know. This shit's fascinating. For those of you guys don't know, we're talking about the moon phases, where these different, what are they, full and what is the other one called? Full moons and
New moon and also a first quarter moon. We have a first quarter. Jeez Louise. Look what I'm doing to myself. We got a first quarter moon on the 28th of this month. And if you Google what first quarter moons signify in the market, and or a start of new beginnings. We have
yeah,
a new moon in between though, but I think it's going to be funny if this served as a bottom. Like, let's just look how that lines up. Isn't it funny?
it's literally the day of it. For those of you guys who don't know, essentially the full moons are supposed to usually they're supposed to signal, they line up a lot of the times, weirdly enough, with these bottoms or and tops too.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it's basically just reversal patterns.
even on the few corrections we've had in Bitcoin, the last few years lines up at the top. Not always accurate, but
No.
within a day or two or like a week of
It's
the
pretty funny, isn't it?
yeah, it's pretty nuts. I don't know what to make of this. I want to have a more of an expert's view on it.
We need someone who does this. I just started looking at it, and I was like, "Damn, the metaphor is there." They're
Yeah,
coming for the bags before trade season. And who knows? We could go lower, you know? I don't even mean to sound like a bear because I don't want to see this happen to my alts, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a wick to like 89, 92. Could it happen? Yeah. Do I think it matters? No. I think all of this is noise. I
yeah,
think all this short term price action stuff, just let what's happening happen with our economy and invest responsibly.
yeah.
Have money to buy the dip. Um, do not get into that demonic stuff. Yeah, we won't. I'm not going there yet. That'll be if we dip to like 40K or something.
Yeah,
I'll
well,
come up with a coping mechanism.
yikes. That's when you start going to straight rituals. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
We could
No, I
always
think we're in a good zone to buy.
yeah,
Bid this zone.
we could always do something like this. Worst case, I can come down, the 90s again, like you said. But if we get multiple weeks of consolidation,
Exactly.
we only got one low in this correction here in April. I think we could get something similar. But like Hem said, I think all the writing on the wall is on the charts, all the great fundamental stuff. It's just whether it takes a couple weeks, couple months, just a waiting game.
I
But
think also just to touch on your point, like I was in a space with this is when this is when the dump started happening, not before we went so low, but it was with just like people who aren't in our kind of crypto Twitter space, like Gary Cardone, things like that. Is that
yeah,
his name? Yeah, Grant's brother, Gary. It was Mario Newfall's space. And it was just talking about like there's a lot of people, like a lot of high net worth people who are interested in Bitcoin. And you have to understand there's some people that haven't been allowed to touch it until recently. So I think it's something that you just have to be patient and look at the big picture. I don't like the short term stuff. I really just like buying when the fear is here. And if we go lower, so what? Buy it. You don't want to be sitting there when we're printing green candles wanting to buy that. That's just not how you do it. Real estate crypto investing, something came up that caught my eye because one of my buddies says I should really try to integrate it somehow. I don't know the right way to do it. And I've thought about it. There's a bunch of different ways, but that's a whole nother
I probably should
space.
ask you this actually. The What are your thoughts on how real estate will be, RWA and all that?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that happens quick? Or like, what are your thoughts on RWA with real estate?
So I think that eventually you'll have deeds on the blockchain, and that's where they'll register everything. Like right now, you have basic scenario. If I'm looking at a house for you, I'm going to look at the field card and see the data on the house and see what the history is on it. We had in our area years down, like registry of deeds burned down, and with you have older houses that when before computers stuff wasn't digital, you still have actual paperwork. And I think that is a risk because it's tough to keep track of all the paperwork, permits, everything like that when you go to, do anything real estate related, make updates to your house, buy a house, recording deeds. And so I think that you see eventually that go on the blockchain and say, like, oh, you make it. It's funny. I had a really down the rabbit hole idea about how NFTs would be integrated into that. You have an NFT of the house and like say you add mini split like a mini split system, heat and AC, you see that like the metadata changes and it has a new trait, like just stuff like that where I think they can record what they need to record on the blockchain so nothing happens to it and
That
it's
that would
secure.
probably what it would be, right? As a non fungible token, right?
Exactly, and you transfer that upon ownership, or I mean buying real estate
That's
with
what I was gonna say.
crypto.
Do you think we're gonna have a day where you can just obviously there's gonna be more steps to it. You're gonna have to do filings and stuff in that country,
Yeah,
but
and it comes with regulation.
where you can just go on you can go on with your ledger and purchase the deed to
That's
it.
crazy.
You can
That'd be
like
awesome.
purchase, and obviously you're gonna have to call an agent and do all this stuff after. But just to
No, you
make
don't
it
have to.
really, you think you're just gonna be able to? I'm
You
sure you're
could
gonna
buy
have to.
no, anybody right now can buy a house on their own. I always suggest, talk with a professional, they know what they're doing, but you don't have to. Like you can sell your house without anybody.
Yeah,
But long story short, yeah, I think you can do payments that way. There's always going to be an escrow account.
you think
And
like you think 5 years from now people are gonna be able to go on like now Zillow? It'll be a fucking exchange or whatever. If somebody wants to buy the house, that second they can go on and pay in ETH or whatever. They get the rights to that house, gets instant transferred to that owner, and then obviously you got to get on the phone and sign all the
I
paperwork.
don't know about that just with like the title searches. I think you could find a way to use the funds. Like definitely. I know we've had people who've wanted to buy with crypto, but
I guess most people aren't buying houses in cash, so it's a little tricky.
actually, Bren, that's another stream topic. About 30%. So yeah, most aren't, but about 30-40% of sales have been cash. That's why I also
Interesting.
don't believe in a housing crisis really. Like a lot of people have equity. You're going to see those dips, but yeah. So buying them with crypto, we've had people like, yeah, you have to convert it to USDC, people have said, and get it back into your bank. Obviously, they don't take screenshots from Coinbase
Yeah.
like you can do with a Fidelity account if you're buying, like, hey, look what I have here. But yeah, I think one day you're going to be able to use blockchain. I think it's safer because unfortunately, there's been instances in our office, where in other offices, just like with the company, where there's been scams going around, email scams trying to fish for money and fish for wire transfers, like how that happens. You hear about that.
Yeah.
And that is also something I think the blockchain can solve is, that's why I like ETH too, as what their blockchain does. And, I think eventually you see it happen. Hey, you have already seen sales for Bitcoin for real estate. It depends. It's really either party can do it. If you're paying cash, you can pay whatever you want. You could trade somebody anything. It's between you and the seller. But when it comes down to getting a mortgage, that's a different story. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like being able to use your crypto as a source of funds when you go and get a loan and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
like then converting, but you could offer, Brian, we could write an offer right now for a house and say, hey, like I offer you X Bitcoin or X ETH. You could do that. The seller could be like, yeah, I'll take it. Or they could say, no, I don't want
Yeah.
it. It's
Did you
all
see
up to
that
them.
that clip with Ryan Servant or whatever his name is, where he was like, they were whatever show that they're doing that really
Yeah, I've seen that.
it could take like yeah that it would be worth like that was like a
Billions.
$2 million house. It'd be
I
worth
think
like
you see it more with just the younger generation coming up, and as crypto becomes more adopted, I think you'll see it. Like if somebody offered me Bitcoin for my house, I'd take it.
yeah.
It's
So
just between this. It's just the way to do it, because you like right now you have escrow accounts where they hold money. It's not like you just unless you're. It's not like you just say, "Hey, here's a check" or "Here's a bucket of cash."
yeah, they
Um,
have to figure out somehow like
exactly.
on chain credit scores and shit. Right now, you can take loans, but they're super collateralized. Um, so I'm sure people who want to buy in cash just straight with ETH and stuff, they'll be able to do that pretty easily. But somebody asked Brent, what do you think about the future of AI trading, like trading, but AI does all the analysis? There's definitely going to be tools, right, that can help people. As far as like our market's going to be completely like just solved and shit, and there's going to be just completely efficient. I was watching a video with Raul Paul the other day, and I think he was saying eventually that's could end up happening is that there is no markets because everything's just so efficient with AI. But I think for people I think AI is smart right now, but it's going to take a while for it to get all the nuances and all this stuff to where it's like as great of a analyst as somebody who's has years of experience. Um, but there's obviously going to be a lot of that, and it's going to change the game for sure. I haven't really thought about it enough to really give you like a in depth of what I think is going to happen, or I don't even know if I understand it enough yet to really know the implications. But I think overall, obviously, we've seen AI completely optimize and change a lot of these other different areas. It's obviously going to, like, I could see trading tools that, like, give you a lot more information. It's going to become a lot easier. But I still think time in the game, experience, like different things I think can only be taught through experience. But I don't know. Maybe I sound like an old ass unk who's just coping like against the AI. But I don't know. What's up, Meta? Humbled Wine. What's up, Jeremy? He says interesting correlation between the moon phases and price action. Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. The beaver will send men crazy. Yeah. GM Bren, what do you think we should understand more about the current market sentiment? Um, Form your own thesis based on stuff other than just like price action. Don't feed into the fear. Try to ask yourself, form your own thesis. House plans and renovations registered on the blockchain. Yeah. Do you see me, buddy? Haven't gotten the answer to my question about IPs. What the heck is an IP? IP stands for intellectual property. You think Pokemon, Marvel, Disney, Yu-Gi-Oh, any of these intellectual properties, um, you know, That's why we're talking about really the NFTs. That's all they are at the end of the day. At least the ones from 2021, the non-art ones, is they're brands that instead of launching through a cartoon or launching through a game or launching through a whatever, they launch through NFTs. But essentially, that's all it is. Pudgies, VFriends, Azuki, they're all fighting to become the next best, greatest like IP, where millions of people all around the world want to consume their content and collect whatever they're putting out. Um, but yeah, I think it really is the calm before the storm, guys. I think, like I said, what I'm looking for as a final confirmation for this low is the same thing we've seen at the end of all these corrections: is some type of consolidation for multiple weeks. I think that's how it's likely going to play out. I think I erased it, but here, let's see if I can get it back here. Yeah, there we go. Oh, not that one. But I think this is probably most likely what we're going to see here. As long as Bitcoin can hold this low at 100K, give or take, it could extend, it could be whatever. But this is generally what I'm looking for as a kind of a final confirmation to kind of confirm that we're in an April type correction, is some type of slowdown or consolidation for multiple weeks. And during this time, you're going to find a lot of people get bored, stop paying attention. Most of these corrections end in apathy, where everybody's just bored and not saying much. I think that's what's going to happen again here. Obviously, we were talking about a bit earlier. If Bitcoin were to come down and wick through 90, I wouldn't be panicking. The only thing that would change, change anything chart wise, is again if somehow some news event came out or something, and it just started tanking with big red candles, and we come back next week and Bitcoin's like down below 180 or down below 80. Again, that would be a lot more reminiscent of the November 2021 correction where Bitcoin came down super impulsively. But again, so far we're looking exactly like the summer of 24 and April. So I think it's just a waiting game. Again, what we want to see, a couple weeks of consolidation at least for Bitcoin. And if we're to see that, that's when I'm going to start to build a real meaningful long position on Sol and ETH, and probably get in some more meaningful, like bigger DCAs, because I think at that point we're very likely close to the bottom. So let me know in the chat for everybody who's still here. What are you thinking? Are you guys thinking the bottom's close? Um, and everything else. How many exactly? How exactly do they affect memes slash NFTs? Oh, NFTs are the IPs, like I just said. Cipher, they're devote. Yeah, I'll look at Cipher for you, bro. We'll stay on here for like another 10 minutes, make it an hour and a half. Cipher 4 million. Oh, somebody asked earlier about that other coin. What was it? Zira. Yeah, this looks good, man. Very impulsive. Um, as long as it's able to clear this high at 33 or at 3 cents, it's probably going to continue higher. But again, biggest thing here, that was the biggest dead giveaway where you could have accumulated on the 5th, is this consolidation that held this low for one, for what, 2 or 3 days. It shifted. This is usually a good low risk trade if after it's been consolidating, shifts to the upside. Um, usually a good trade there. But to answer your question about Zira, I don't see any signs of it stopping. But again, everything's going to correct eventually, and you want to be taking profits on the way up on these kind of coins. DCA is king. Yeah, I agree. Can't see my screen. Should be able to see it now. Hopefully, you can see my screen, right, guys?
Hey, Brent, I got a question for you.
Yeah. What's up?
Well, one, good price action today, especially touching off that 50. Two, what do you like for altcoins besides like memes and stuff? I know one of my dude, I'm gonna talk about this right now. This morning I woke up and I wanted to feel pain before a good day, and I texted my buddy and said, "Send me the screenshot of when you sent me Zcash." Guess what the price was?
What was it?
$54. And you want to know the best part? You want to know how I reacted to the message?
What?
With a haha.
That's all you can say, right?
And
Holy.
then the other one is he sent me Dash at like $37 or something, $43.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm completely fucking sidelined.
Privacy coin run.
Dude, I'm completely sidelined on this shit, dude.
Oh, so am I, and he keeps
Definitely.
reminding me every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, fuck. There's a few things we can learn from this. First of all, I mean, dude, whoever caught this, especially if you've been holding for 3 or 4 years, I mean, dude, Zcash, if you would have Zcash, like people even talk about dinosaur alts like Litecoin and AVAX and all this. Like nobody was talking about Zcash until uh, late last year when it made that little mini run. But I mean, dude, 15x run in 6 or 7 weeks. I'm not in this at all. Congrats if you caught it. I think what this shows is a few things is that when a coin is dominant, like the only coin that's running, it can keep fucking running and have momentum for a lot longer than you think. And then two, I'd be taking heavy profits on this, like 50, even if I'm a long term believer, 25, 50%, because this is going to correct eventually. Um, but also, I think what this is going to show is that as TradFi and everybody comes into crypto, that there's going to be some of these. This goes to show that a coin can be down for 4 or 5 years. Nobody's talking about it, consolidates for 2 years, and then goes on a 15, 16x run. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 26, 27 from some of these dino alts that everybody's kind of counting out because they're going to have these TradFi narratives. Jupiter, for example, I think is a good example. Honestly, I don't have think a lot of Jupiter. I should probably be accumulating a lot more. But Jupiter, for example, is down what is it, 75, 80%. And it to the untrained eye, this probably does look pretty nasty, but it has been consolidating for 5 or 6 months. And I think TradFi investors, for example, for Jupiter and coins like it that are producing a lot of revenue, and I believe Jupiter, someone tell me if I'm wrong, but they have some type of buyback or they're implementing one. But these kind of coins that maybe have been down for a few years, but they have good revenue and these different things that TradFi investors like, I think we're going to see a lot of different coins like Zcash kind of have resurgences based on these TradFi narratives. So to answer your question, other than memes, I think the movement memes, especially if you're not playing with hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, are still probably the best bang for your buck. But other alts that I've been accumulating, I really like first, like really opened my eyes this year to the flywheel meta, and I think it's just the purest form of like giving value back to holders. Where these obviously it has to be a protocol with real revenue. That's why I really like the pump trade and Aster now, because they have both really big channels to drive attention to them, but also they have flywheels attached. So I really like Jupiter, for example, is nice. I should probably buy more of that, but really more so Pump. I think Pump, if the market recovers and bounces back, I think Pump Fund, the trenches, will get a lot more volume on Pump Fund, which again goes into the flywheel. So to answer your question, one that I really like is Pump. Now it's come down here, but then also, what do we see here? Almost 2 months of consolidation now. If the market were to shift off this low, I could see this being the low for Pump. I've been accumulating a lot of Pump. Again, flywheel's great. Aster being another one. It's one that I didn't catch the first move like until I started accumulating a little bit up here. Got out at break even, and then now that it's been here again, I've been accumulating it more heavy. Same kind of thing, just like Pump. A lot of attention around it. Operators that have a lot of, in Binance and stuff that can drive a lot of attention to it, and then they have a flywheel, kind of a 50-60% correction, but pretty choppy in nature. Consolidation here, really like Aster, and then probably I think Doge is going to go crazy, dude. Eventually, on this next run, AVAX I think is a really undervalued L1, kind of sitting on this 2 or 3 year low here. Good chance it shifts off. But really, other than the movement memes and the brand coins and all that, I have really been accumulating a lot of the pump, the stuff with good flywheels, and some of the older stuff too, like some Doge, um, Uniswap, some of this older stuff. Not crazy huge positions, but yeah, I think a lot of top 2025 alts. If you're kind of looking for maybe some real outsized gains in the alt category, is maybe look for some alts that have TradFi narratives that have been consolidating for a bit that you think these TradFi investors might find valuable. But ultimately, I think we've been talking about it. Now the fact that everybody counts it out and that we're getting a lot of this bullish stuff with QE, I think there is a good shot that maybe not everything runs, but we get a broader run, kind of like we got in 21, where not just memes are running, but memes, alts, a lot of stuff are kind of running at once. Um, so yeah. What about
Yeah, I
you?
think we get an alt season. I think we get one. I mean, basically, me, I look at something like the. I don't have a ton in alts. My alts are like just ETH. I'm a big ETH guy. I like Pepe, Mog for the meme coins, but then for other stuff, H bar. I have somebody who's very bullish. One of my friends on Litecoin, like you mentioned earlier. XVM. Yeah, they posted that in here. Can you please look at XVM? But yeah, mainly ETH, Pepe, Mog, Sol, H bar. I have XRP on my list. I watch it. Litecoin. Not too much in that. I stick mostly to ETH, but I watch them all as indicators, and I think that like Ondo as well, Arrow, one of those. I
They
like
said
them.
XVM.
What'd you say?
They said XVM.
Somebody in the chat said pull up XVM. Um,
But yeah, I think H bar. I have a homie in one of my chats that's like really bullish on that. I think now, do they get a H bar? Get a
yeah,
they got
with Litecoin.
what's it called, an ETF?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's one of the few that I think the technology and the protocol has a good shot at actually being adopted. Um, I would say Chainlink. I don't know how I
Oh
forgot.
yeah. Yep, that's
Chainlink is probably the most, you know, uh, I don't know, just like the one of the few actual utility coins in crypto where the protocol itself, the oracles, are used pretty much industry wide in crypto, and then the token itself is actually used in the oracles. And then they're building a whole framework for blockchains to be interoperable. I think Chainlink is extremely important, and is probably another one of those coins that has been pretty sideways for a long time. But as these TradFi investors start to buy shit that's other than just Bitcoin and ETH, they're going to be looking at stuff like this that has real like utility and really ways that they can model and value these things off of other than just
I'm a big ETH guy, like I've said multiple times. So I like a lot of the ETH alts. I look at a lot of them. But then I'm into a couple others as well. I like Ondo as well. Kind of a longer term thing.
yeah. Were you a gamer? Much of a gamer growing up?
Yeah, I still am. Battlefield 6.
That's what's up. That's what's
No,
up.
yeah, I like to game.
What games have you played over the years? Did you ever get into like Fortnite or no?
Oh yeah, I played Fortnite, Call of Duty, Battlefield, sports games, all of them pretty much. RPG
Obviously,
games.
do you think the blockchain technology being integrated in games, not like traditional Web3 gaming, not talking about like, I'm talking about like, the where kind of what off the grid and stuff is doing, where every transaction in the marketplace is eventually on chain and the players don't necessarily have to know it's on chain. Do you think that's the future of gaming, inevitably, or what are your thoughts on crypto gaming?
Yeah, I think it picks up, as far as how you do it with transactions and stuff, probably happens. I'm kind of looking forward to see if that's implemented in GTA. That would be kind of cool.
What do you think? What are
Also,
the odds of that happening? You think if you had to put a percentage?
oh, I don't know. Maybe one day. I don't think soon. 25% maybe soon. 50%. Um, 5 years from now. 25%. 10 years from now, I don't know. I think it happens. You'll be able to spend crypto. And I think as more crypto cards come out, there's going to be a way. But I also view like all those skin packs that you buy on Fortnite and guns on Call of Duty. I view them as NFTs. So that's why I'm also bullish on NFTs because technically those are, in my opinion, you're buying them and it's something you're using there in the game. So, and people spend money on that. So that's also like why I believe NFT technology will stay and people will always buy collectibles like that because they do on the gaming side.
When do you think
And
it's
then
gonna have to be the shift where gamers start to see it as like what we're saying, where it's just another technological shift that actually favors them? Do you think it'll just have to be a great game coming out that's just really
maybe
fun?
like a collab with them, with an NFT project or something like that. You get a skin on Fortnite that's a Pudgy Penguin or a Bored Ape or something like that. Or yeah. like a gun with a skin
Well,
that's
like, what if
designed.
GTA 6 just said fuck the fan, like, not fuck the fans, but like we see the future. We understand that this NFT stuff is like actually favoring the fans. We're not really concerned with the backlash. We're just going forward and we're gonna have Web3 integration with blockchain integration in the game. Do you think if the game's fun and there's just a big, whatever, a big hit game that has it, that the people are just gonna accept it, just kind of like how they did free to play gaming? Or
Yeah.
what do you think would be kind of what sparks people's acceptance of it?
I don't know. I think like that what you're saying. I don't think they'll. I think people just like regular. You mean more people in Web3 right now, or
No,
more
like crypto,
retailers?
no, like gamers, like where
Yeah, I mean, eventually they'll be like, "Oh yeah, those are those bored apes." And I think as more
no,
as we,
I'm talking about like crypto gaming assets where like they're logging in their game.
oh
If right now people are like they don't really quite understand. They think it's just kind of a cash grab. When any this Web3 NFT stuff in gaming, when in reality it actually gives gamers real ownership of their assets and allows them to trade them on the open market. I'm kind of asking, what do you think is going to be that shift in these people's heads where they don't see the NFTs and the Web3 stuff as like a scam, but actually just like the next shift in gaming? Do you think it'll just be like a big game that everybody loves, or like what do you
yeah, some big game will integrate a lot into it. You know, like we saw kind of pudgy penguins in Fortnite. I feel like once we see more of that, when you see a big game and like, oh, you can use this, you can integrate your NFTs, you can use blockchain technology in that. I think you see it just become more adopted. And I had something I totally forgot what I was going to say, but it had to do with gaming. It'll come back to me. But yeah, I think I
Yeah,
was looking forward to that to see what GTA does. You know, because I know last GTA game it got so people would make their own like they would have subscriptions where people would pay to join that and you can do stuff there. You can have jobs in GTA and make money
yeah.
there. I
They
was
used
like, I
to have
wonder if
private
that actually
servers. They
integrates
have
with
private
crypto.
servers, and now that they're allowing like their GTA partnered with like the biggest private server thing company or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I could see where like it. You're kind of thinking like, okay, they're gonna integrate the Web3 world and have a Pudgy Penguin collab. I think that could happen, but also I could see GTA 6 or one of these other games just making all of their in-game assets NFTs and not even making it a Web3 like crypto Twitter thing, and then just because I think it's just the next shift in technology, right? Whether there's a big speculative wave or not around crypto gaming, who knows? But I think just from what I understand, hearing from experts and people who understand the industry, that it seems like it's just the next shift in just like
Yeah,
free
I'm
to play
not as
gaming.
big as understanding crypto gaming as much as just like general pushing the brand, getting it out there and like what you could do with what's currently out. But like I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, one big game will come out and they'll just be pushing that without really saying it and people will just get used to it. You know, people are habits of or nature of what they do, like habits and everything. And so, oh, this is here again. Oh, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm missing your point, but like I think it just takes that big kind of game to come out and say, hey, you can buy this here. Everything's an NFT.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the future is like the users don't even necessarily have to know that it's NFT stuff. It's just done in the background. Somebody asked about Fartcoin. Yeah, this is nasty. Came all the way back down to this March low. But as we see at these major lows, if the market does recover here, Bitcoin does bounce off this low. I think Fartcoin could Fartcoin could either take out this low or just go a higher low and form that bottom here with the rest of the market. I think Fartcoin is one of the few that still is going to have staying power despite being down almost 80, 90% now. We've seen all the big coins go through 80, 70, 80, 90% corrections. Fartcoin did another one here and bounced back. I think kind of the last, just like Bitcoin, kind of the last piece of the puzzle for me would be if it consolidated, for a few weeks here. Just like it did here, it held this low for about 2 or 3 weeks. If it's able to do that and we see Bitcoin recover, I could see this being the low of Fartcoin. Probably pretty good shot. How does Bitcoin look here? I wasn't here earlier. First of all, welcome. Hope you're having a good day, brother. Fucking Bitcoin. Again, we zoom out, higher time frame corrective behavior. Oops. Higher time frame corrective behavior. Where we look at the November of 2021, Bitcoin topped out and came down 50%. That is very impulsive in nature. That is what we want to avoid. You want to avoid getting caught in that. If we were to see this on Bitcoin and Bitcoin were to come down from 126 down to 60 in the next few weeks. At that point, I would caution people we're probably in a bear market. Um, but as you can see here, the summer of correction of 24, April correction of this year, all exhibited what I like to call corrective behavior, where instead of coming down 50% in a month, it comes down but does this like little choppy like corrective channel like structure in these little coil ups, as I like to call them. We saw the same thing in April. And the last kind of piece to the puzzle, or like last confirmation, was multiple weeks of consolidation or holding this low. We saw 2 months of consolidation in the 2024 correction above 53K that led to another move up. We saw 4 weeks of consolidation that led from a move up to 76 to 120. Bitcoin has now been consolidating here for 3 or 4 days. If it were able to hold this low here for most of November, that's kind of what I'm looking for. If it's able to hold above 99K for most of November, does something like this, I think there's a really good shot that this is the low and that we shift up into end of year. So that's what I'm looking for to really get into a meaningful long position in ETH and Sol, is for Bitcoin to hold this low for a couple more weeks and then shift out of the consolidation back above around 100K. At that point, I think there's a very good shot we go back to all-time highs. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Worst case scenario, Bitcoin comes back down to the 90s again, but I think that would be right on point with the 25 to 30% corrections that we usually get. And then when you take into account the regulations, the macro situation, I think it's very obvious where things head from here into next year. And I'm just extremely bullish. It's really just a waiting game, I think, at this point. Will there be another alt season such as last year with projects like Zero Bro hitting 600 million? I don't. Yeah, I think there's gonna inevitably be another mania in meme coins, just like we always see, because it doesn't take a lot of capital and it doesn't take a lot of attention. Where will that be exactly? I think the best bet is on the movement memes that have like a movement or a um, bigger idea group behind it that usually tend to survive these corrections. But what is going to be like the next meta? I don't know. Could it be an AI again? Sure. Could it be in creator coins? Sure. Could it be a little bit of all of them? Sure. The way I'm kind of playing it is betting on the stuff that I know or I have very high, you know, conviction in, the movement memes, the stuff like the flywheel stuff like Pump and Aster, and then from there, be ready for these new metas and use a small part of my portfolio to speculate on them. That's kind of how I'm playing it. But to answer your question, what's going to be the next new meta? Could be AI. I think creator coins could also pop off. Could be a number of things. Cryptolicious, I appreciate you being here, bro.
I
What about
like the idea of your correction thesis too. And like what Misfit is saying, Misfit Hunter is saying the 20% correction, but 25 to 27 can happen. Yeah, that's like what I looked at too, is what the corrections we were having. I believe the last one from the Wix from what was it? Let me look. From like January to April was like 30-ish%. So that's fine with me. I like the corrections. It boosts for another leg higher. I think stuff looks pretty good in this zone.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was like 27% or something from high to low. It seems like all these corrections usually get steeper, but this time we're sitting at about a 23% correction. So ADA chart potential for the future. I would never count out ADA because I do think there's a lot of millions of people around the world who still hold ADA because of that 2021 run. So if we were able to get any type of mania again, I think we saw in January of this year, ADA actually spiked. Did it spike oh no, it spiked about 50% to all time highs. But you guys saw at the end of the year when chill guys started to come out, we started to see a lot of kind of retail normies start to come in. I remember the Telegram channel was getting a lot of new subscribers, and then we topped out. But during that time, ADA went from 32 cents to $1. If and when we get that again, I think there's a good shot that ADA could run it back. Is it my number one bet right now, especially at this market cap? Definitely not. But for those who are ADA believers, I wouldn't count it out. I think there's a good shot at that it makes another run higher in the coming months. Trump been trying to see the government shut down past few days. Could that be what pushes with no consolidation? Yeah, no, Arsham, it's always possible that we see a V-shaped recovery from a government shutdown announcement. especially if it came out of nowhere. But that's typically not what we see. Are we going to see C pins like AVAX run back to all time highs? I'm bullish on AVAX, especially if there is any type of crypto gaming run, because a lot of stuff is built on AVAX. But typically, I think we're going to see a lot of top 10, 15, 20 coins run. Do you think Rockstar Games is going to integrate crypto? I have no idea. Hemdog says like a 25%. That happens. This time 50% maybe in 5 years. I don't know if GTA 6 is going to do it first, but I think the technology, putting everything on chain, allowing people to have all of their gaming assets as NFTs that they can sell on the open market if they choose, I think is probably the future. Yeah, I'll check Cypher before we head off.
Yeah, I was about to ask, anybody have any particular questions for me before we I'm just chilling now, honestly. This is awesome. This is great to be on here chopping it up. I think we have a lot of good views that we share together, and it's good to get these people and talk to them and see what the questions the market has. I
Amazing.
like I like how stuff is looking though. Seeing some green action on NFTs today as well as you're getting a little relief in ETH. But yeah, I'm bidding this zone for sure.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this was amazing. We definitely need to get you on again here soon. And we really need to start doing Twitter spaces. I think that's the best way to really hear from the community and hear everybody else's stuff and allow them to ask
Oh,
questions
definitely.
live. So we'll have to set that up for the next week or so. But yeah, expect to see my boy Hemdog back on here soon. Um, Before that, yeah, if you guys definitely, if you haven't already, go in right now and shoot my boy Hemdog a follow. We talked a lot about a lot of stuff today, from real estate, what that's saying, real estate in the bond market are saying about 2026, about obviously the majors. We talked about NFTs. We talked about a lot of great stuff. Hemdog, what I really wanted to bring him on, besides him and I, sharing a lot of opinions and having great thoughts, is he's been putting a lot of great stuff about NFTs and ETH and how he sees a lot of similarities between not just in the charts but everything else in past corrections. A lot of great stuff coming from him. So definitely shoot him a follow. Other than Twitter, is there any other places that people can find you?
Yeah, if you want to buy or sell a house privately, DM, I got you.
Let's go.
No, yeah, this is all I have for socials right now for crypto. Yeah, I kind of just started it when I got in and just, made connections and having fun. As you see, probably bullish.
I want to start doing this. Is there, you have a little bit of time in the market now, 4 or 5 years. If there, what's one thing you would tell yourself at the very beginning when you started 4 years ago? For a lot of these guys who maybe 2025 was their first year in the market, was a rough fucking time. What's some words of advice that you could give them, that you wish you would have told yourself or you would have had back in 2021 or 2020?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I think you answered it one time before too, saying set targets to take profits and take a percentage off the table. When you feel good about screenshotting and things like that, just make sure to sell it because God, I've round tripped stuff more than I've done. Like everybody has done it, getting caught up in the moment, and also DCA and make sure you have money for dips. And sometimes something else I like to tell myself is when you think you have a dip, buy half and then wait to see if you get a dip from there. And just basically have a long-term outlook. Don't try to buy something and flip it within a day. That's just my style, though. You have to find what works for you. But that's what I would tell myself is don't buy something like an NFT and then get buyer's remorse after it. Like, oh, why did I just do that? I saw everybody else doing it. Do your research on things. And I think Gary said that too. He was like, learn about NFTs before you jump into something and just take profits and make sure to take some off the table. You don't have to sell everything, but every time we pump you can sell, exactly, sell before screenshot. So if you take that screenshot, sell a little bit at the same time.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what I've like the number one thing I always hear from people when I ask this question is patience. I think I forgot who tweeted it today. Oh, I think it was Clemente, but patience and perseverance, two biggest things in crypto and any of these markets. Sounds simple and cliche, but if you just continue on and give yourself, there's a good shot again, especially if you make a lot of good decisions that you may make money in the first few years, but understand it's a long journey and it takes years to build skill and pattern recognition. So give yourself a few years, work your ass off, learn as much as you can in the short term in the micro, but also patience in the macro. Red Trade says I joined late, but great stream, guys. Appreciate you. If you guys missed, hopped in late, definitely watch. Go ahead and watch back. A lot of great stuff we talked about around Bitcoin, about the final piece to kind of this puzzle, this correction, and a lot of other great stuff. But expect to have Hemdog on here soon, and we will announce some type of Twitter space. I've been meaning to do that, and I think Hem and I on there together would be good. Let us know in the chat if that's something you want to be seeing, and if you would be joining the chat. Say spaces if you're going to hop on the spaces. But either way, I want to go ahead and pick somebody from the chat. I'll go ahead and give some USDC to real quick before I forget. And Rojan, that's insane. I swear to God, I did not see Rojan say if you could go back and give yourself one piece of trading advice. So
Oh,
damn,
really? You didn't see that?
I swear I saw that after I watched it. That's
That's
crazy.
why I said that. That's why I was yeah. I saw that too and I was like, "Oh, I thought that's why you put it up." But yeah, always take
No, I
profits
put
when
it up
necessary.
after I did it. Yeah, Rojan is a fucking always on point. I love this guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
something else, just the last thing is I'm just a firm believer of make sure your bills are paid and you have an emergency fund and don't put anything you can't afford to really lose. Like don't count your mortgage or your rent or any of your car payments or any of that on your bag that you're putting in. That's what I've learned. I like to be safe.
for sure. Oh, and I said I would check Cypher. My bad. It is up here. Cypher, amazing setup. This is a perfect example of a corrective channel where, again, if you guys see here, oh, oops, wasn't sharing my screen. As you can see here, Cypher, amazing corrective channel, corrective setup. Whereas you see guys that even though it came down, what was this, 4 to 9, it came down 70, 80%. What did we see here? It wasn't just a straight death candle. It saw multiple bounces and choppiness in between with what do we see here right at the bottom? About 2 or 3 weeks of holding this low at 0.01. That was your kind of final signal. And now it's breaking up out of that. Very good chance, especially if the market kind of chops out or it goes higher, that it does something and continues like this. Corrections again usually lead to impulses higher. So this looks really good. I would say take profits on the way up, but I would not be surprised to see this at all time highs in the coming days. Why do we have pain? Let me see. Oh yeah, USDC. Before we get off, let me see. I'm gonna randomly select through the comments. Oh,
Why do we have pain? I can touch on that because it's not supposed to be easy.
yep.
They want to shake you out. They want to shake people out.
Yeah, especially
That's
with
the
the
whole point of a bull run is to leave everybody silent on the first stop.
hell yeah. So the first winner of the USDC from the chat, I'm gonna go ahead and pick somebody from the comments of the stream after and post them both under the comments. But the first winner I just picked randomly from the chat is A QWERTY Classic. Appreciate you for asking a lot of great questions today. Go ahead and shoot me a DM and I'll shoot you that USDC. And then I will pick one after the chat as well from somebody who commented on the stream tweet. But as always, I always appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with us. I hope that you had some fun and got some value from it. We're going to continue to do the streams despite market conditions. We've been through multiple of these corrections together. Caught a lot of great plays, learned a lot together during these kind of down year for crypto. Can't imagine what we're going to do together in 26 and 27 and all these other years ahead of us. Again, as like Hem just mentioned earlier, this year's been rough. There's been a lot going on, but it's a long journey. If anything, this last year confirmed is that crypto um, is really here to stay, and Bitcoin, especially ETH, but it will filter down into the smaller assets and these other different asset classes. And we're really just getting started. So appreciate you guys for being on here. We'll be back on Tuesday with another guest, my buddy Jaden. I will tease that in a little bit, but always appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment, retweet, bookmark, and we will see you on Tuesday. Make sure to shoot my boy Hem a follow, and love you guys. Have a great weekend.